book The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. He wrote that book in 12 days. 150 million copies sold. You and I get the writer's block on writing creative fiction stuff, what you were saying you do, and I certainly do. I'm struggling with the plot line from the first children's book I'm working on. So to just have the spigot turn on and have the entire book downloaded to him from above in 12 days, and it not to be just mediocre book, but one that's deserving of 150 million copies sold. You can't deny the supernaturalness of that.
That mirrors how I feel about the world, that there's got to be some supernatural here. To use the word faith, it takes a lot more faith to believe there isn't than that there is. To me, it's just so easy to fall into the idea that, like, God, there's something going on here. But to answer your question, yes, actually it occurred in a Pizza Hut, an odd place in Warsaw, Indiana, where I was at the end of my rope, feeling like I didn't know what was real and what wasn't real. I was having dinner with my wife, an early dinner with Julie, and it just hit me. It's okay, this is what I'm designed for. I'm not headed into this field. I'm headed into this field. This is what I believe. I'm on this eternal search that starts here. I don't know how old I was, my young 20s. We didn't have any kids yet. Oddly enough, like at another Pizza Hut many years later, I actually asked my wife to marry me because the place that I'd asked her to, that I'd made a reservation at, was closed unexpectedly. And so we had to go to next door to the Pizza Hut. I don't think those two things are related, but I always just think about those two events in my life.
Why would you think those are not related?
I don't know. Maybe they are. I know that we're beings that are searching for meaning. And so we're on the lookout for any signals that there is meaning. And I think that's fantastic. My life ought to matter. I read somewhere somebody said you ought to write your own obituary and then you ought to live like it, right? I really believe that's great advice. But I've also said, and I made a big point of this in an early book on managing people, like people in the creative field that I serve, advertising, marketing, design, digital, and so on, they're really intent on changing the world. And I just have to smile about that. 10 years from now, your client will remember nothing about your firm, nothing about what you did for them. They won't remember the names of anybody they worked with on the account team. But somebody who worked for you as a boss, like you manage them, 10 years from now, 20, 30 years from now, they'll remember everything about what they learned about life from you, what you did for their career, the moments you had courageous conversations with them, the moments you screwed up and did the wrong thing and either apologized or didn't. Like if we want to impact our world, let's just start with family, friends, coworkers, and then if the rest of it happens, fine. These books they're great to write. They help me clarify what I think, and I get feedback from people that they've been influential for them, and that's fantastic. But it doesn't really define my life. My life is more about the impact I have at a really deep level with people around me. And it's just interesting to me how we talk so much about our work lives, and we want to get famous. We want to do personal branding and all of that stuff. And that is useful. I don't hate it, but it's also a little bit artificial, right? It's just, you and I both know you've had people on your podcast that are really good people in life, and then people that are just jerks, right? It doesn't really matter. Let's get down to real living and thinking deeply about these things. Let's not be afraid to have conversations that challenge us and so on. So anyway.
Yeah. So what if nothing was a coincidence? What if Pizza Hut was exactly where you were meant to be? And what if the definition of synchronicity from Carl Jung, I'm paraphrasing it, but it's basically the inner world is syncing up with something in the outer world. You think about a friend, an old friend, maybe somebody that you had a falling out with and you haven't spoken in 20 years. Suddenly, as soon as you think about them, the phone rings and it's them. Right? These sorts of things are not outlandish. Like I said, my understanding is this is how the universe is designed to work. And what if we are the starring actor, each of us, in our own movie, and everybody's watching, and essentially it's you are Truman in the Truman Show, and you have a huge audience. and they're rooting for you. And they're whispering to you, take that chance. Say yes to that interview, or start this book. Get it done. Publish it. Talk to this publisher rather than this other one. What if that is the true nature of reality, instead of what we see as the three-dimensional reality of, I'm sitting at a desk. That's real. That's hard. Actually, it's mostly space if you look at it at a quantum level.
Yeah.
But it feels incredibly real. But what if all that's illusion?
Whether what you're saying is true or not, I think we need to live that way. I think we need to live with intention. We need to assume that what we do matters, that there's some fabric underneath this that's weaving things together, because humans without meaning, without intention, are just ugly, lonely people of despair. And so I want that. But you can actually live that way without knowing for certain that's true, right? At least I wouldn't ask you to agree to that, but I do for me, that's true, right? I was not afraid to examine some of the very specific beliefs that were a part of my upbringing. That didn't terrify me, because I knew that underneath all of it, there was a net. I couldn't fall so far that it would be destructive. And so I do think we ought to live that way. And what we do matters, right? What we do with neighbors matters. What I write in a book matters. Or you go to Amazon and you read a review that's not, I forget what the average review for this book is. I think it's 4.6 or something. And then you read the reviews that drag it down, and it's 1 star by somebody.
Why would you do that?
Well, I know. It's
why punish
like
yourself?
Watching an accident, right? It's just, and then you do it. It's, oh, why did I do that? So stupid. And then I think
that's like turning on CNN,
going on in this
Crisis News Network.
life?
Like, why would you do that?
Yeah. Why would you watch any news? Why would you read Twitter?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to see accidents today. I want to But you just think, okay, there's a story here, that whatever this person's facing, there's something going on in their life, and I don't understand it, and it's okay. And you know what? Just let the water roll off your back and don't think too much about it. Or I just closed a big conference we do every year, and I was the closing speaker. And I said to everybody, you know what? I'm not a really great speaker. I think I'm a really good writer. I'm an average advisor. I'm not a great speaker.
An average advisor. So you got people lining up after your talk saying, I want to hire you as an average advisor because you really sold me.
Yeah. But there's something about, I don't know, I'm compelled to be honest about this stuff. So then afterward, I get some feedback that, yeah, that wasn't really good. I can't take that personally. Like I'm the one that said I wasn't a great speaker.
You set the frame. Your words are powerful. So yeah, you created your reality. That's funny.